Sure.
Okay, is it visible now?
No, no. Now it is. Now it is.
Okay. Okay, now it is visible to all.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Yeah, great. So, as we have already covered with the spinning up the individual containers, so now we'll start our today's sessions to spin up the multiple containers with some multiple networks assigning to your containers. There might be some multiple volumes attached to your containers. So this will be kind of your full-fledged project. So the project which you usually when we actually deploy our projects, we have a different components required, like front end application, like any database applications, and some backend applications are required. So usually previously we were trying to spin up individual application into one individual containers. So now in today's session we're going to start up with deploying multiple containers with the help of one of the feature of the Docker Compose tool, which help us to write some sort of script, and based on those scripts we can easily deploy multiple containers to it. So moving further, there is a feature which we call it as Docker Compose. So this is already embedded with the existing Docker daemon, or you can say the Docker package itself. So it's available with the original Docker installation as well. So in that there is a command with Docker Compose, Docker hyphen Compose. So this is very precise command. We need to follow that specific command itself. So this is already embedded with our Docker package itself. So this tool help us to build up multiple container with having some configuration attached to it, having some networks attached to it. So there might be some front end app containers, and there might be some another containers like database handler containers, and there might be some like in our case uh, there might be some MySQL containers, and both containers want to share the data between each other. So we will attach some common volumes to that so that they can easily share the data between each other. So what we were doing in the earlier session was we usually spin up individual containers. So those containers were not publicly you can say those were immutable containers, though they can't be they can't able to share their data and their feature with other containers. So we used to manually attach some volume in it. So in this we will gonna deploy some script for deploying multiple container with some you can say with some dependable containers will be deployed here, like database will be dependent with some front end application. The data which is fetched from the front end application, those will be stored into your uh, database container, like any kind of database container like Postgres or MySQL. So these are some databases which we call it as simple database container. So in that we can define the images of that. So the very first requirement is the same, that every container needs a basic and image. For that, to execute those container, we need a very first requirement is to have a single image of that. So that will be written in a very simple form of script in YAML file. So we will get into it as well. So let's get some idea about what is Docker Compose. So this is a tool for defining and running multiple containers in the form of Docker applications. Like this will be like your full-fledged application in which your front end will be executing at the same time, and your another container for database will be running at the same time. So they will be running at the same time. They will be parallelly executing their tasks with each other, so that they can fulfill their requirements between each other. So first of all, for executing those container, we need to write some configuration to it. So there is a very first thing we the come into our mind is YAML file. So YAML file is nothing but it is a configuration. You can say this help us to build up some configuration files. So this is a very good and very easy tool which help us to define the configuration language. So in other terms, we can say YAML file is nothing but a configuration language itself. So this is similar to, you can say, we call it as Python as a scripting language, and similarly Java is another language, and C++ is another language. So similarly, there is one trending configuration language, we call it as YAML file. So YAML, you have already heard about the YAML, like those are used for building the configuration of any of the servers, like Nginx, Apache. Yes, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might have gone through some basic idea, like this is a markup language which help us to define the configuration of your applications. So how your application should behave, that all sort of things are been written in that. So those are very human understandable language have been written in that. So this is very easy to understand with the help of YAML file. So there are some syntax we need to follow those, so that we can understand that that configuration which are doing what things in it. So moving further, whenever we want to deploy Docker Compose, we need to make sure that we should deploy or you can say we should write all sort of YAML configuration with a fixed name. We call it as docker-compose.yaml. So this is you can say the default name structure is given to it. So you need to follow this naming convention, like this should be common for every Docker Compose for deploying any kind of multiple container Docker applications. So moving further, there is two very important component for deploying any kind of Docker Compose. We all know that, as I said, so there is a very first requirement is to write some sort of YAML script. So for that case, we need to understand the YAML concept, how we can write the YAML configuration, and we need to understand the YAML syntax. So this is very simple to understand that basically this follows some branching or you can say this follows some hierarchy architecture. There you can easily understand that which things are coming under or you can say falling under to which you can say variables, and which kind of things are coming under to which variables and which entities. So we will get deep into it when I start with explaining how we can write a script in YAML. So moving further, the second very important component is to have Docker Compose in our CLI tool, which is in our Docker client tool. So as I said, nowadays Docker Compose is already embedded with our uh, original Docker package itself. So previously we used to install another tool for or you can say another package for handling the Docker Compose, so which was additionally attached after the Docker Compose file itself, or original Docker file itself. So nowadays they have updated their Docker team has updated their package with they have included this Docker Compose as well. So we get to know how we can deploy those with the help of Docker Compose. There are some commands to execute those YAML file with the help of Docker Compose tool. Like we want to spin up our containers. So there are some commands like Docker Compose hub, sorry, up. So this will immediately will try to start all your uh, container which is defined into your YAML file. So guys, one sec. Yeah. Sorry to guys keep you aside. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With the latest Docker version, does it enable us to directly use Compose? Can I just fire the command right away, or do I have to install it?
No, as of I said that in the latest version of the Docker, they have included this Docker Compose tool in it as a main
Okay.
package itself. So you don't need
Okay.
to install any additional Docker Compose tools.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So moving further, we need to get to more deep into these two components, because these two are very important component in the Docker Compose execution. So as I said, YAML help us to build up the configuration of the container deployment in a very well defined hierarchy, and it's very easy to understand. So any human want to understand the scripts which is written into the YAML, so he or she can easily understand those script, because it's similar to, you can say, human understandable language are defined to it. So moving further, what all sort of things are included in it? So like it is very easy to define the containers in the YAML file, and you can easily define the images. You can easily define networkings, and you can easily expose your networks so that those networks should be accessible to your browser. The things which we have already done in the previous sessions. Yes, guys, do you remember those things?
Sorry, what was the question?
That port exposing things and all.
Yeah, global exposure of the port to the local server as well as to the API, right?
Yeah, that internal port should be
And
exposing.
external port. Yeah,
Yeah, that thing.
so that the port can the container can communicate with the port and between the containers as well.
Yeah, exactly. So in this YAML syntax, there is very simply they have defined it. You can easily expose your port of your containers. So there might be multiple containers defined into your YAML syntax. So moving in coming slide, we'll gonna discuss as well. So how we can define the multiple containers into our YAML syntax. So in that we can assign some define our environmental values, like let's say wanna take up some database in it. So every database requires any user authentication, like, so you need to define which user you are allowing to share the database with your front end applications, like WordPress application or any kind of Nginx applications. So you need to define which user accessibility should be given to your front end application. So in the environmental values, so you need to define which user and which databases need to be shared, and which and you need to define the password as well. So while we write some sort of scripts, you will understand how we can define the environmental values as well. And the very important thing is the volume sharing, the one which you have done with the previous session as well. The thing which you are doing manually, in our case, we need to just define those into this YAML syntax, and those volume will be you can say attached to your common containers, like multiple containers will be using that same volume itself. So those will be easily defined here in this YAML syntax. So moving.
So is the like a Docker Compose like a single command for running multiple containers in a single step?
Yes, that's what I
Okay.
want to. Yeah. So it's a simple command. So I will explain you how we can run those Docker Compose as well. So we
Okay.
will get understand in the coming slide as well. Yeah. So the next thing is CLI tool, which is, as I've already told, that Docker Compose is one of the tool which help Docker client to execute this tool. So there are some uh, those are the, you can say, execution part have been done in this CLI tool. Like you have written all sort of script in the YAML file, and you want to execute that syntax, and sorry, that file, that YAML file, and with the help of CLI tool of Docker Compose, this will help you to, you can say, execute those syntax, or you can say those scripts, and based on those scripts, your outcome will be generated. So like you have defined two containers with having some images attached to it, some volumes are attached to it. So this is, like, you can say, the execution part. So this handles all your execution parts. So there are some Docker commands as well, which helps you to execute your multiple containers, and this helps you to stop your running containers as well. So just similar to, you can say, while executing multiple container, it has a feature to stop the multiple container with the same command itself. So yeah, now moving to the YAML syntax, let's start up with writing some sort of syntax to it. So let's open Visual Studio Code. So I'm expecting you might have came across with writing some you have already installed the extension for YAML file as well. Yes, guys. Have you installed the extension for YAML in the VCS?
No, I don't think so. How do we do that?
Okay. First of all, I guess you are doing all the commands and everything into your cloud itself.
Yeah, the machine that you assign to each one of us.
Yeah, so for that case, you need to install, first of all, a remote SSH extension, so that you can access your machine's file system into this Visual Studio dashboard. So let me take you to this basic manual for how to access your remote machine. So okay, so you need to find for one extension, call it as SSH, remote hyphen SSH. So this helps you to connect any machine with the help of SSH into it. So as I'm already into my VPN, so let me get connected to my VPN. Yep. Hello guys, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So as I'm now inside my one VPN, and let's get the access of any of the machine. Okay, please note these things, like you need to install this extension, and the next extension should be for YAML. So that is also been installed. So this is provided by Red Hat itself. So this is YAML syntax and the remote hyphen SSH syntax. So make sure to install these two syntax into your Visual Studio Code. And let's say I want to access one of these machines. Okay, let's run this, and we'll use this machine for our example. So we are waiting for the IP address assigning.
So on my item, once I SSH into my machine on the cloud, then should I first Google for the remote SSH and then see what
No,
how to go about it, or how, like, is there any command?
yeah, this is you can say the Visual Studio Code helps you to have the terminal itself. So let me show you that as well. So can you see my Visual Studio Code? Yes.
Where?
Is my the screen is visible? This Visual Studio.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So I was just showing you the terminals in which is embedded with the Visual Studio itself. So you can find it here. Okay. So now we need to SSH into our machine which we have created into the cloud. So let me copy this IP and we need to search it here for remote SSH. So after you install the extension called remote-SSH, you will find this icon here. So this will help you to get the access of your remote machine. So you need to click on this add new, and just after this you need to define your syntax for accessing your remote machine. So as of now I will go with my this cloud. So I'm taking my user as root. So you have already have your own user account into your machine. So
Mhm.
like yeah. So in this way you need to define the IP of your machine, and let's take the configuration file. Oops, I need to choose that file. Let's retry it. Copying my. Let's get connected. Okay. Now it is asking me the password for that. Okay. It is asking for allow the fingerprint for accessing those machine. Now it will asking my password of that machine. So I'm writing the password. So this password which is already shared with you for that specific user. So you need to do it along with it. So just after that, I will get the access of that machine. So here you can see in the on the left bottom corner, you can see there is access SSH and my IP is available. Okay. So now I want to open any folder of my cloud machine, so of my, you can say, dedicated machine. So there you can see this is listing me all the folders here, and now I want to access this here. So this will take me to the this will show me all the files and folders of this root directory. And now I want to create one file here, so that I want to write some sort of Docker scripts here. So from here, let's say you wanna write some uh, Docker compose .yaml file. So this file is now created into my machine, which is created into my dedicated machine. So let me show you that as well. If I ls this, you can find my this file is now created in that location. And to run this file, I just need to open the terminal here, and I just need to fire this docker compose dot yaml file, and this is a command for executing my uh, that YAML file. So as of now, I have not installed the Docker into this machine, so this won't work in my case. So I am expecting you have already installed your Docker into any of your machines. So you
Yeah.
can, you can directly write all your script here with the help of this Visual Studio Code. Let's say you want to start with services. Before that, no, so I will show you that script in this in this Visual Studio Code itself. So this will help you to understand this how we can write our scripts. So very first thing is, let's understand the Docker Compose. Okay. So as I said, we need to create a file with the same name, which is docker-compose.yaml, and under that we need to write our configuration, how we wanna execute our things here. So these are some basic example of spinning up your containers in the form of services. So your service is nothing but your containers have been defined. So let's build up some syntax here so that we can understand how this things works here. So after this, versions, basically this versions is nothing but the docker compose versions are defined, that in that there are some features are provided in the previous version. So based on those features, they have defined the versions here. So let's say you want to take up to some older version, so there are some features which was dedicated to that specific versions, and in the latest version they might have uh, deprecated those features in that. So this versions helps you to define or you can say to provide which Docker Compose uh, things you are trying to embed into your files. So that thing also be present here. Let me take up to the versions. As of now, the latest version is version 3.8. So this is supported by the Docker engine, you can say Docker daemon version, which is above 19.03. So let's get into it. What all sort of features they have additionally added into these versions. So there are three different versions available for our Docker Compose. So there are like Docker version 1, version 2, and version 3. So let's consider version 2. So what all sort of things are added into your versions 3? Like they have provided some linked local IPs and isolations have attached to the Docker 2.1, and Docker 2.2. They have additionally attached some init initialization command as well. So in this way, they have added some new versions and new features in it. So that's why they have categorized it to which you need to define which version you want to use it. So then and then only you will use those feature of those versions itself. So this helps to features of the Docker's Compose. And
Which version exactly, or just version in general?
yeah, as of now, I have not set up any version. So let's consider this as a 3.0, or you can say, so this will take up to the version which is available for 3.0. So if you don't define any version, so it will by default consider the Docker version 1.0.
Oh, so it's not going to take the latest version by default.
No, by default it will take it as version 1, or you can say
Okay.
the 1.0. So you need to define as per your feature requirement, you need to define the version in it. So moving further, this is the very first command you need to start with. And just after this, you need to start with services. So, you need to make sure that you should follow some basic syntax, like everything should be ended with uh, every variable should be ended with some colon, so that it should define it. So services is nothing but these are your uh, containers information, like these are the list of container which is fall under this services. So let's say containers infos are provided here. So we call it as, you can say, same as docker run command. So giving it after writing the services, we need to provide some child directory here. So by giving one tab here. So if I don't define this syntax, so I would automatically taken it into one single child directory. So let me provide the comments after this syntax as well, so that I can write this file easily. So let's say I've started the services defining, and just after I press enter, it has taken me directly to this. You can say some indentation are provided to it, so that it should understand that. After that, we are trying to define the containers details. Like there might be container one containers have been defined. So here we need to define like container name in the form of container one. Similarly, if you want to define one more container, so that should be defined with container 2. Similarly, want to define some more containers, so that also can be defined here. So every container has some feature in it, like every container should be attached with some images here. So we need to get into it each of these containers, like whenever I press enter after this container 1, so I would get, you can see I'm getting into the child of those directory, you can say those syntax. So in this way, it is easily to understand that which all sort of configuration is falling under to which containers here. So let's say I want to define the image. So after that, I need to define which image, or you can say, let's say I want to consider it uh, Python image. And similarly, I want to take up some initial commands, like which commands or which environment we want to execute it. And in the environment, I need to define uh, my user id and my password. There might be multiple things have been defined, like which directory to be get executed. So moving further, let's say we want to attach some volumes to it, so those have been provided here. So these are the common syntax we need to define it to each of the containers. So in this way, we usually write our scripts here. So you might have understood, like we are trying to deploy here multiple containers in this syntax, and every all the containers should have some common volumes, so that we can provide it here above that. So that will be provided here. So this will be some common volumes, and for networks. So in this way, you can see these are the parent directory of your compose file, like versions and services, volumes and networks. These are your parent directory. So these will be commonly shared with all the containers, and within these containers information, this is you can say they are running. You can say with some dependencies between each other. Like container one will have some dependencies, So let's say you want to add up some networks to it, like you want to attach some ports. So here you need to define the ports here, like in the form of you want to export some port like hyphen 8080 colon 80. So in this way you usually define your ports. So
So the
let's
Docker Compose works for multiple containers only when we provide the syntax for the parent directory and for the child directory.
Yeah, this is the way we need to define the containers information here. So then and then only it will work.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's make some comments so that we can easily understand. So what is the operation of
Can
such?
you please type a little bit lower, because when you're speaking, there is a message that comes that you're speaking. So when you write, the your whatever you're typing is hidden behind that,
Okay,
and
okay,
it's not visible to us. So if you write it a little bit lower, then we can see.
okay, okay, okay. So I'm just now getting into, yeah. Now I will define some comments to our syntax so that we can understand in our coming session, like we want to deploy any kind of multiple containers. So we need to make sure that what services does, what this container name is doing, what this how to write this configuration files. So in the next time, if I say you to deploy some multiple container having some features to it, so you should be able to write your own YAML configuration file to it, so that you can easily understand, and you can easily write your own file of for your application deployment. So let me explain you this services one by one. So this is basically the container information are provided, and this is your container one, and under that we are defining the image for container one, value for container one, and we are now trying to define the volumes which is need to be defined for our same container. So these are the common thing we need to define into all the containers. So you need to make sure that whenever you are trying to deploy a container, you should be able to get the syntax of this. Your container should fall under the same you can say same hierarchy. Like you can see my container name one is standing on the same hierarchy. Similarly, my container name two is on the same hierarchy. So if I give any additional some volume should I'm attaching to some I'm giving some backspace to my existing settings, so now it will consider this volumes as my new container name. So you should be much more familiar with the syntax as well. So now in my case I'm trying to deploy three containers, but YAML file will understand that it is trying to deploy four containers. So these are nothing but the container name one, container name two, and the volume. So this will also be considered as your container. So this is you should be well aware of these such syntax. So
So it's going to be like having main headings and subheadings. So wherever there are main headings, the Docker Compose will read it as one container, and
yeah,
for the subheadings, it will consider it as details for that particular container.
yeah. So
Syntax.
yeah, so these are the you can say the child information of this first
Mm-hmm.
container. So this is also
Mm-hmm.
the child information of this second container. So this is your you can say this is the parent for these informations. So
Right.
similar, this is the parent for these information, and
Mm.
these are all the child. You can say these are the child for this services parent. So
Mm-hmm.
this hierarchy has been followed in this YAML syntax.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, we have let's move up with some writing some simple container deployment. So now we have understood the basic syntax of the YAML. So these are the common components are used in deploying any of your containers here. So you should be able to understand the syntax and hierarchy of your YAML configuration. So the next is you as per your application deployment. Let's say you want to deploy any kind of application with full-fledged application like front end should be there should be some backend should be attached, and there should be some database should be attached. So those have been defined in these such syntax as well. So moving further, let's copy the syntax as well. So this will help me to define into my PC. So I will use the same syntax, and will try to spin up one simple multiple container deployment with the help of this. So I'm trying to deploy it into my Mac machine. So let's erase these things, and I will use this syntax as well. So this will understand you. So what all sort of changes I'm doing here. So starting with the versions, I will start up with having the version selection. So let's say as of now, I want to select version 2 as per my feature integration. You can go for any versions, like the latest you will choose. You will include all the features. Yeah. So let's move with providing the name of your containers. Like I want to have some container with. We want to deploy some simple. um Let me set up some project overview. Okay, guys, can you see my draw your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will take. So you might have heard about Drupal.
No.
So Drupal is also one of the web application. This helps you to. You might have heard about WordPress.
Yeah.
So this is similar to the Drupal itself. So this helps you to develop your websites. So Drupal include all sort of packages in it. So we will try to use that Drupal image, and we will spin up a simple project of simple web page deployment. So for the database, we will use some container 2 as our database of PostgreSQL. This is one of your web application, you can say, and we are going to deploy these two web application with some uh, volumes attached to it. So these are the volumes which is provided by the host machine. So the thing which I've already shown you in the previous session, how these volumes are been provided here. Yeah, so you can understand these are my containers, and I'm trying to attach my volume from my host machines. So in this way, we are just having this overview of our assigning our volumes from our host machines here. So let's So are you able to see this properly?
Yeah,
You want me to
it's
enlarge
good.
this?
No, it's good.
Okay. Let's provide some good name. So they both want to share a common volume. We all know that the volumes have been shared by the host machine. So this is your host machines. We need to assign which all sort of volumes they want to share with it from my host machine. So, and we all know that every containers are required to have some images attached to it. Like in our case, we're gonna take up some Drupal image. Similarly, in my container too, I will go for PostgreSQL database image. So in this way, we're gonna deploy our first Docker Compose project for it. So remember, guys, you should be aware of whenever you define the Docker Compose syntax, you should able to at the end you should be able to rename that file to docker-compose.yaml. So then and then only it will consider this as your Docker Compose commands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's move further and we'll write the YAML files for that. Okay, we're gonna use this syntax, and as of now we have only two container requirements, so we will erase this. And networks, they both should use the by default networks. So now I wanna give some uh, default container name, like my first container should have Drupal name, and it should use some Drupal package of specific versions, like we consider is a default version of this. And we want to open some ports to it. And in this Drupal, we don't have a requirement for environment, so we need to define the database environment values, like which user database you are trying to share it, and which password you want to share to it. So now for ports, we need to provide which ports you want to expose it. So as of now, it should be exposed to my browser with port 8080, and the internal port will be port 80. So this is the internal port and this is the external port. So external port is nothing, the thing which we are trying to access into our browser, and this is the internal port of the container. So we are just port forwarding the internal port to our external port, which is the accessing to our browser.
Why should we give it in quotes?
Yeah, because this is a syntax, we should define it into the usually when we write a one liner command of the container deployment, there we don't use to define these this into the codes as well. So we need to follow some syntax here. So that's why
Okay.
they have built some code system here.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the volumes, let's say we need to have certain multiple volumes are required for this. Basically, Drupal uses some Drupal volumes are there. There are some themes required, are been required for having using those volumes for the themes for the sites as well. So where we exactly store the web page of, you can say, the HTML page. So let's make our volumes defining here, and we will attach to which directory you want to the access of your modules. So we'll assign some uh, volumes for the modules, and similarly there are some Drupal themes are there. So you should be make sure that after you give hyphen, there should be one space. So then and then only it will consider that this is the child of this volume. So neither it will consider as there is some syntax error uh, in this YAML file. So for profiles management, we need to define some additional volume attachment for the profiles, and the location is will be under the same, but at last should be in the profiles. So this is a basic default requirement for having the Drupal web page. So we need to fulfill those requirements, like where should our site should be placed. So the default location is the same. After that, we just need to define which volume is using for which modules, or you can say which profiles or which websites you want to display it into your front end. So Drupal is a combination of you can say different modules, and they have a feature of managing the profiles as well. So there might be some multiple access of your web page, Drupal web page. So for managing those profiles, they require some different volumes to it. So path is the same for every deployment. Okay, let me have some reply to it. Okay, we have defined the image. So the very first important thing we need to define into any container is the first thing, the image should be defined to that container. And the next thing, we have defined the uh, we should define the volumes, and thereafter the port should be exposed, so that then and then only we will able to access our front end application to it. So now moving further to the next container, which is for our Postgres database. So for that, we need to define the so uh, I'm taking it the specific version of that Postgres image. So are you guys with me there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So let me define some environment as well. So as we all know, the environment, we need to define the which common environment, or you can say which path we are trying to open for accessing our database. Like as of now, we want to open our database accessibility to my first container. Like Drupal should have access of storing the database into this second container. So we need to define some uh, Postgres. So this will help us to access our first container with this Postgres database. Okay, now we have defined the individual container information, because we have not attached some common volumes to these containers. So those are defined under this common volume section. So this volume, you can see, this is the parent of the other containers. Like, this is the parent of this volume segment, you can say. So volume, this is a common volume sharing. We need to define the which volume you wanna share with your containers.
So for now, we have given allocated the separate volume just for Drupal.
Inside the
But
Drupal container, yeah.
yeah, so the other volumes, the parent volume is to be shared between both, right? Postgre and Drupal.
Yeah, so that's what we are trying to define it outside of that container. So then only they will get the access of these volumes.
Okay.
So you can see this volume is you can say placed besides the services. This is this
Mm-hmm.
follows this
Yeah.
hierarchy. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We need to define all the volumes which was attached under the volumes of these container. So that's why we are opening this to access from for both the containers. So similarly, we need to define all the volumes here. So there you can see they are the same thing. It is provided, which is under this container. So similarly, for profiles, we have given the same things, and for the sites, we have also given the same. So in this way, we have opened the port for these such uh, things. So now we'll copy this.
Do we have any network after that?
No, we don't require any specific network, so it will take a default bridge network between each other. So as
Okay.
of now, we don't want to have some network to it. So that's why we are taking a default network. Yeah. So I guess I'm inside my machine. So I need to copy this and I need to place it into my Mac machine. So let's close this. So as I said, we need to make the same file name with the one which Docker Compose understand. So which is docker hyphen compose dot YAML. So I have saved this. So let's get out of this machine and let's cut that file. Yeah, this is the one. So let's check if any container is running. So let's destroy the running containers. Okay. Let me show you the images of the of this. local images. So I guess I've already downloaded the Postgres and the Drupal as well. So both the images are already downloaded. So this file will be automatically pull my local images as well. So the command is to spin up that YAML. So we need to use this command like docker hyphen compose and the up command. So this up command helps you to uh, so this help up command will
Can you,
start.
sorry to interrupt. Please, can you type like couple of lines below?
Okay,
Yeah, this is good.
great.
Yeah.
So this up command will start your uh, will read all your YAML syntax, uh, which is placed here. So cat docker hyphen compose.yaml. So this is a file which is placed in my this directory, and I should be standing on the same directory where I am trying to execute my docker compose file. So with the help of up command, it will try to uh, execute my containers, which are, or you can say it will try to execute my YAML file. And based on that YAML file, the script which is written in it, so it will start deploying based on those scripts. It will start spinning up my application to it. So it will start. So let's try to hit this. So there are some various command after this up docker compose up. There is a down as well. So down will you can say forcefully this will destroy your docker compose running command. You can say the one which you have already executed this container. So with the help of docker down, this will be forcefully drop down to it, so that your container should be destroyed after this. So there are some other commands like docker stop, docker compose stop. So this will stop your running containers. So this will only stop your running container. It will not destroy your container information, and it will not destroy your container. It will only stop those containers. But with the help of docker down, this will destroy your container, and everything should be will be destroyed when if you hit this command. So similarly, there is one command for start as well. So it will start the docker compose file, the things which is already stopped. So it will start the same. So now we'll start with docker compose up. So up will gather all the based on our YAML file. It will start fulfilling our needs with this. There you can see it is taking a default network, which is admin default. So we have not defined any network, so that's why it is taking a default network. So as of now, we have not required to restrict to any specific networks. So now it has started spinning two containers, like one for uh, Postgres and one for Drupal, and it has attached both the containers. You can see the Postgres one and the Drupal have been attached. So this is the information of the Postgres container. You can say this is the logs of your Postgres container. So there you can see this files belong to the database which is owned by the Postgres users. And the next thing is you can say this is the logs of your Drupal container. So moving further, you can say they have uh, properly configured each other, and they should be able to share their connection between each other. There you can see the database system is ready to accept the connection. So this shows that uh, they have properly configured between each other. So now we'll try to access those this into our local browsers, because we have already opened the port for it. We can access these into this common browser here. So there you can see this is accessible into my Chrome browser. So the very first thing we need to define the prerequisite things. We need to start up with defining the profiles. So based on those profiles, there are some themes are available. So with this, we are trying to deploy our simple web page. So we need to define the Postgres database name. So these are the logs which is done generated here. So we need to find for which user we are getting into it, so that it should be get connected. Okay, the user is Postgres. The password is the same which we have already provided under this. This was the same thing. So let's start with the configurations. Okay, there was some issue with the database. I guess the database name is different. So let's find the database informations. Or we can connect, you can say we can create a database into this one of this Postgres container. So let's list down the containers here. So this is my Postgres container. If we need to shift into the Postgres user, and with the help of PSQL, so this helps us to get into the uh, database of the PSQL. So let's create one database here, ndb. Okay, okay. The database is created. So for listing, there's a command /list. Okay, no worries. We'll try to use that database. Is ZenDB. Use the same password which is provided here. Okay, so I guess okay, the database is created here. So let's get exit out of this. So we need to make sure that it is hitting to the proper IP of that machine or not. Let's get the IP of that machine and we'll define that machine's IP inside this. So the IP is 172.22.03. It should work with this, I guess. If it's still not working, so there might be some configuration issues. But we have already set up the configuration. So yeah, there we go. So it is now working. Basically, it was still left with the that machine accessibility. So it was just taking this local IP of my Mac machine. So we need to define that IP there. So we have already defined, we have deployed those two containers. Those were handling the Drupal, and another was handling the Postgres database. And in such a way, you have seen that we have made the connectivity of those. So any website uh, configuration, you when you deploy any website here, and based on your configuration, your storage, your website requires some database. So for that case, we have attached some Postgres database storages. So now, let's say I want to give it any name, Xenstack project, and we'll give some name of I'm creating a user for this site. Yes, guys, are you there with me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have almost done with the starting the very first project. Yeah. So this is my admin console. So there you can see I have just logged into my Xenstack project with the name of this, and in the administration I can find my website settings. So I guess it's still the theme is not properly visible here. So no worries. In such a way, we have deployed our simple Drupal-based web application deployment with this. So in this way, you will spin up some WordPress as well. So let me show you the simple WordPress application as well. So meanwhile, how we can terminate these containers, so that also will get into it. So as of now, I have not defined the execution of this container to be get executed in the background itself. So that's why it is showing all the logs in my this terminal as itself. So I need to forcefully stop this. So I've stopped this container. So if I refresh this, it should show me an error.
Mm-hmm.
Is standing behind this. There you can see there's a container one and container two. So both the state are exited. So both are not running at present. Now we want to start these container with in the background condition. So it should run on the background, and it should not show up these logs into my terminal. Okay, I'm inside the same thing. Okay, the start will consider as a background execution itself. So if we again refresh it, so we should be get the access. You can see we are accessible to it, but this user is not present here because they have reset all the settings. So that's why we are encountering an error. So let's try to destroy this image. So with the help of down command, docker hyphen compose down, this will help us to destroy all the networks attached to that container, all the volumes which were attached to those containers, and the running container will be destroyed with this. You can see in this way, our container are destroyed, and our networks which was assigned to that, those were got destroyed.
What about the
Now,
images?
yeah, images will be present in the local machine. That won't be, that doesn't, that won't be get destroyed here. So that will
But
be the
I thought
same.
volumes always persist. right?
Yeah. So let's check the volume. Yeah, there you can see the Drupal module volume, Drupal profile is persisting, and the
Yeah,
sites are there. So whenever next time spin up these containers, so it will not use any additional volume. It will try to use this volume itself.
same one.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so good point to remember here. So the volumes persist all the time. Let's try to start up with in a background condition.
Can you please type lower? I couldn't see what you compose. What? Okay. Yeah, this
Docker
is good.
compose up. Yeah. So let's try to refresh it. So I guess they are still uh, running in the background. So they might be doing some oh, sorry. ES-A. The port forwarding has been set. Okay. So it's showing some error because it is using the same volume. So we need to every time we need to authenticate the user because we can't directly allow the user to get into the main dashboard. We have destroyed the machine and we have started the machine again. So it should have some user authentication again. So let's check if we can generate the logs of those machines. Okay. We'll make it down and we'll erase the volumes because with this it is making us some, it is using the previous settings as well. Okay, our database is ready to accept the connection. Let's refresh it. Okay, there you can see previously it was using the same settings, so that's why it was clashing into the new settings.
Mm-hmm.
So let's proceed further with this. These are the same thing with the one which you have done in this. The username was post. Yes, the username is available in this as well. So you need to copy this from this logs on logs only. There you can see this is the user which is provided by the this machine. The password which we have given the same in my the script.
The database name was ZenDB.
Yeah, as of now, we have destroyed
Changing. Okay.
that previous volume.
Okay. Okay.
Let's define the host of the database machine. Okay. So we want to get the IP of this Postgres database. So for that, we can use this inspect command. So here we can find the IP address of that machine, and we need to paste it here. Okay. So as I said, it is not taking the default database, so we need to create one into that machine. Let's get into it with the help of EXIT. This is not the one. Let's list it. Remember, guys, to spin up the database, you need to get into the machine with this command. So exec is basically help us to get into this machine. So now we need to change the user with su hyphen to postgres. Now you can see we are changed from the root user to Postgres. Now we'll get into the database with the help of a psql command. There is a similar command which we use for getting into the MySQL database. So there we used MySQL -u. So similarly for access, yeah, for accessing the Postgres SQL, we need to use this command.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we list down all the data, the list of the data. So there are for listing the databases, there is a command slash backslash l, or you can say backslash list. So then also it will show the list of the database which is present here. So there is one database with the name of Postgres. It should take this, but I don't know why it is not taking this. So no worries, we will create one database. So with the help of create database and the database name, then data, and it should end up with semicolon. It not allow the hyphen sign. Okay,
Oh,
our new database is created with ZenDB. So let's list down the database again. So is it created or not? So there we can see our new database is created. So now if we provide that database into here, Zen data, and the password and the machine information, everything is good. Okay, we need to select the database type as well. So that should be under the Postgres, and the database Postgres.
Zen data.
Yeah. Was it the same IP 03?
That was what was there when we did inspect volume.
It's 02. Okay. 2402. Yeah. So as I said, we were using this different data type, so that's why it was not accepting this Postgres. So it should accept this database as well, because this database is also existing in this machine. You can see here. So by default, there is one database is already created with the same database name. So we don't need to create any one additional database. So we were
Zen data is not required then.
yeah, that is not required. So let's yeah. So let's move with the same database name. So it should take this. Yeah. So it is working for our case. So we don't need to require any additional database name. So we are working on this default database which is present in this machine. So for exiting this database terminal, so we should use \q. Let's get out of this machine.
\//q or exit, which one? Both.
\q. \q for exiting from the database console.
Oh, okay.
And this is for this machine user. This is the machine user, yeah. So
Okay.
for exiting from this, I've used this exit command.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this, I'm hosting this Drupal web page application into my local machine. So it wouldn't be accessible from outside of this network, you can say. So let's wait for the configuration. So you can see the beauty of this Docker. You can say with the help of only simple small image of those, we are just able to deploy the full-fledged project with it. We don't need to install it into my different machines. With the help of that image only, we are able to install all sort of packages which is required for Drupal web application. Similarly, for any other web application like WordPress as well. So those are also can be deployed it easily. So in the coming session, that too will consider, will have some simple project deployment with the WordPress as well. So in this, we'll deep down into it. So how we can deploy a simple web page application with the help of WordPress. So it's almost done. So the later part we have already done in the first time as well. So guys, any queries still here understanding this?
Just that we need to practice this. It was pretty intense today, but we need to kind of work on it. Unless you practice, I guess you won't get it.
Yeah, exactly. Because previously the things which we have done, this is very basic. These are not mostly used in the companies. They usually
Okay.
start with these
And have
scripts.
multiple containers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I've came across take you down with starting from the basic idea about how we can yeah. So now we have trying to start off with some heavy load application deployment. So now you can see I'm inside the Drupal web page. So now I can use this website here. Now I can make some content here. So this is basically this Drupal is content management. This is basically focuses on the content management. So most of the web pages have been deployed with this Drupal web page application. So this is the case. You can say this is you can say we have deployed some mini project. We can define the structure here, like what layout should be there into our website and how our website appearance should look like. So like it should be visible. So we have they have multiple images and they have multiple themes available for that. So this is the case we have tried to deploy with this we have tried to deploy this project with the help of Docker into small containers, and you all know that those containers are running into my host machines with using a very less resources to it. You can see my CPU usage is almost very less. You can say uh, up to 13%, and ideally you can say 66% is still waiting and it's still ideal in condition. So in this way, if you deploy your Docker into the servers, and instead of defining or you can say instead of creating your virtual machine to your server, you can deploy your small Docker containers into your server. So you can say you will imagine how much resources we are trying to reduce this. So that's the thing. That's the point of Docker, and with that view, Docker came into the picture to we are getting the full-fledged application have been deployed with the very less resources attached to it. So that's the case, I would say, and we can wind up our today's session here.
So Bipin, do we have class tomorrow?
Yes, as a Friday, we have a class tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to check because of the festival and things like that. So I just I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that will be there, and this will be
Okay,
working.
sure. We'll see you tomorrow then.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Till day. Yeah. Good day.
Good
And
day to you too.
bye.
See you, everybody. Bye.